Okay, so we'll call to order at, let's call it 10:02. Approval of the current agenda. I do want to make a change to the agenda. The public comments comes early, and that's probably designed that way to minimize comments on the meeting that you just had. So I think that's kind of backwards. So I'm going to move the public comments to after new business. Now, so that way, as we go through the business, and if there was any visitors, they could actually ask about that without any kind of interruption in the regular decorum. So if anybody, so if I do that, I'm going to move the public comments down here. Is there with that change, any other changes? And is there a motion to approve? Approve. Okay, Brian and seconds, and then that's Ann. With no objections, that's our agenda. How about the last meeting minutes? Is there a motion to approve them?
I wasn't here.
Okay. That's a good reason. And you want to fill in again here?
Yeah.
For a sec. All right, good. My comments, the recording of the meeting is active, and I would also like to make a statement about committee morale. As the semi-leader of this committee, I want to, there's been some communications over the last few weeks that I want to talk to, because I got some comments back from you guys based on these issues that we're going to talk about today. So there are two items on the agenda that expose frustration with committee members in their efforts to execute their mission related or detailed in Resolution C10, which includes improving growing conditions for flora and fauna, fostering awareness on environmental hazards, improve the natural beauty of ocean pines, and other functions as listed. The items to discuss today involve the Geese Eye project and multiple efforts to control tree cutting. The recent reactions from this committee through the emails that we corresponded include, and other random comments we discussed, includes frustration, disappointment, and disillusionment. A few members noted their relief of soon not participating in this committee any longer. That's not a good thing. That's a morale problem. As the committee chair, I am highly concerned about the morale of the members, and I'm concerned that the committee can effectively function on their assigned mission. All of the committee members are intelligent and thoughtful people with keen observation powers who see some level of dysfunction or disrespect in the OPA responses to the committee actions or inquiries. If indeed it is true that the ENA Advisory Committee is an actual part of the Ocean Pines HOA, there must be some change in governance. And I don't mean people, I just a governance process to make it real. Otherwise, this committee becomes obsolete. We can get into that more later. So that brings us to unfinished business. The status on the geese. By the way, I'm going to put these statements into the minutes because I wrote them down. The status on the geese crossing signs. So since we started this project last year, 5 signs were removed by Ocean Pines administration. And just by the way, I looked it up. Typical sign costs to get the plastic sandwich structures cost about $105 each, and $60 for 2 banners on the 2 sides of the signs. That's a typical online cost. When purchased in multiples, you get it $60. So I'm going to say the statement, and then you guys can comment as you see fit. Concerning the 2023 ENA project to set up geese crossing signs around the South Cape Pond, the committee members completed extensive research on the use of mobile sandwich signs as effective and safe devices to use as warnings to drivers on the roads. This research included contacting Maryland State Highway, Worcester County Public Works, and a bank office on Racetrack Road on allowing such signs adjacent to the roads. All of these offices, all of them, granted verbal permission to place the signs off the shoulder of the nearby roads. The committee worked with Ocean Pines Public Works to have the signs manufactured. This project was executed by the committee members with picking up the 8 signs from Public Works and placing them around the pond, including 2 on Racetrack Road. The signs were located on the most critical grease crossings on the roads. Beginning in the fall of 2023, Public Works began to remove signs with no notice given to this committee. In February 24, the ENA committee requested to add signs back in, but was declined by Ocean Pines. In the spring of 24, Ocean Pines Public Works removed another 3 signs with no notice given to this committee, leaving only 3 signs at present. Only after inquiring on info at Ocean Pines on 2 occasions did we learn that Public Works removed the signs for reasons including that the signs were not located on Ocean Pines property, as they comment in their short statement, and the signs were to be repurposed elsewhere in the community. These reasons conflict with the original efforts by committee members to obtain the signs, the understood responsibility for the committee members to maintain the signs, and obtaining permission from the property owners in the area. Committee efforts, including upgrading the structure of the signs at their own cost to help stabilize them in high winds. The ENA chairperson inquired with the Ocean Pines library manager in early July this year on the condition of the former sign located near the library. That manager noted no issues of concern with library operations or the county as that landowner. By the way, he even commented that sometimes he tried to fix the sign himself. In conclusion, Ocean Pines, OPA, is now in the process of dismantling a previously approved project that this committee organized and executed in 2023. Any other comments?
One possible correction, and Karen, you can tell me, right? My recollection of the initial implementation of the project, John found a community that used the signs. I contacted whoever at that community to get information on the vendors. I got information and provided it to Sharon. And my recollection was we had we were not told anything. I occasionally said to Sharon, have you heard anything about the signs? And the answer was no, I haven't heard anything. And then she said, John Viola ordered 8 signs. That was a surprise to us. We didn't, but it was a good surprise. We were happy about that. And then the next step was, now they're in Public Works and you need to get there and get them and get them out. And John and I did that, but so there was, we didn't work with Public Works to get the signs manufactured.
They just appeared.
That's true.
Yes. I think the rest of it is very accurate.
Well, you didn't work with them, but it was implied that we need to have signs.
Well, absolutely. We provided information. Like I say, I gave Sharon the detail of the estimated cost. The point being to do something in front of the board to get approval. And
right. So when you checked out the other town, part of that was you found out the kind of design, the sign that they used.
Yep.
And so you came up with that model of that sign, and then you gave that information to Sharon.
Mhm.
And then she probably through an email, I guess we don't know who directly she communicated with.
Yeah, I don't recall.
I don't remember either. I think he did it with Doug and
Mhm.
got him to submit it
Pass
to
it
the
on.
board.
Okay.
Or to pass it on to
Right.
Viola.
I mean, I had it printed because the entity, it was a community or organization, and John actually had a picture
Right.
of the sign. And with that picture, and when I spoke to the organization down there, they gave me the name of two vendors. I say down there because I think it was in Virginia somewhere, but
Mhm.
I could be wrong. But they gave me the name of two vendors that we should check with, and I did, and I printed out information on them and gave to Sharon to present to opiate management.
Yeah,
And
we
that-
just didn't invent it. We actually went out and checked other places that are using the signs and,
Yeah.
and making sure we understand what issues they may have, and also talk with the vendors. We did the right type of
Yeah.
investigation. And, recently I was driving down Coastal Highway again, right off of Manklin Creek Road. I saw some guy come down and pick up a sign and walk off with it. And that's really, if you go on Manklin Creek Road and make a left on the coastal and head towards, the Ocean Pines, there's geese all over the area. There's 20 or 30 of them in the center of the inlet or the road, and they walk across all the time because that's where the pond is, and they hang out there. I couldn't believe that he took the sign away.
So you actually witnessed when
I was driving by, yeah.
when they removed the sign.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting there going, I couldn't turn around. We're on the road there. I couldn't do anything. And by the time I did turn around and come back, gone.
And again, the reason why you put them on each side is because there's traffic going
Right.
each way.
Mhm.
That's what we do in the
And
United States.
especially in the
We travel on two sides of the road. So
especially in the areas where we know there's lots of geese, and that was one of the areas. That was really, that's a busy area.
yeah.
Geese and cars.
I don't know, Patty, what do you think?
Well, as you know from emails, I'm so frustrated by this. I'm irritated that my husband, who's not on this committee, but who's a pretty decent guy, at my request, made the signs better. The 6 that we had left from the originally, just to have 3 of them disappear. And he's not even a part of the committee. He's like, I'm done.
Right.
And it's just all very frustrating to me that we go to all this effort and another one that, and I'm just going to bring this up in talking about morale, and that's the egg addling, because we are an advisory committee. We're the people with the environmental knowledge. I worked at a water treatment plant, and we had a Canada goose population issue. And so I have experience in that, and I brought my experience in that to this committee. Egg addling is something that needs to be done regularly. So we advised the board that they should have the egg addling done. The board, I don't know how many of them have ever encountered egg addling or understand the process, or, have any knowledge of. The board, in their infinite wisdom, decided that we didn't have a goose problem, so we didn't need to add eggs. So why have an advisory committee to advise on the things that we're specialists in if you know better?
Well, I think part of the problem is that there is no there's a communication breakdown. Either with Viola and how he responds to any kind of request that comes from this committee, but also how the board as a body pays attention to these things.
It feels like an antagonistic relationship as opposed to a cooperative relationship. And if it is antagonistic, then why are we here?
Right.
Because we all care and we all spend time doing stuff. But if we're seen as antagonists, it doesn't do anybody any good.
That's been especially true with Public Works. We've had a contentious relationship with them. They were a
Yeah.
big part of why we lost some of the committee members very quickly. And, because they came just to argue with us about why they didn't want to do certain things. And I think it's been tough since then that we're somewhat targeted
Yeah.
by them because I guess the things we're suggesting means more work for them.
Well,
Um,
and without being able to see or even recognize that there is benefit. But
Right.
that we know there is, but
And I feel like the direction coming from management is not strong enough. Like there isn't enough support from management. They're just kind of lukewarm about it. And then it just gets put by the wayside.
Yeah, and to highlight that functions that you guys are talking about, we're not expecting every idea that comes out of here to be implemented.
No.
We just expect a civil discussion to talk about the benefits and the risk and the drawbacks and whatever, and then just out of respect for the advisory committee saying, okay, this is what we're going to do. There's, again, it's really, among other problems, there's just a serious breakdown in communication. And we can't operate as what's supposed to be an advisory committee in this HOA. We're not some volunteer club. We are an advisory committee. Of course, as you say, it sounds like they don't like advisory committees. And so we're just trying to do our job. We're trying to fulfill the role, our functions, as I mentioned here. So we're not looking for, them to react to every single thing that we talk about, but just give us some respect and come up with some ideas. And then with the AGAG link, I noticed that we have a nice new flock of geese around the pond.
well, I don't know, math isn't always everybody's thing, but there's a thing called multiplication. So you take 2 and 2 makes 4, and then those 4 it double, and then all of those make more, and then they make 8 more. It only takes 1 season
Right.
or 2 seasons to get totally out of control because they have babies, like lots of them. And so it's a process. It's not a one-time thing, but that's the frustration.
And I think with the AGAG link, we did put in the request early enough that they could have arranged it in the early spring.
And I distinctly recall from this meeting hearing that we thought it was done.
Right.
Come to find out, it wasn't done.
Yeah.
I'm sure we were told in this meeting, it was done. We're pretty sure it was done, and it wasn't.
Right.
So-
Again, breakdown in communication. It's really sad. We're all supposed to be professionals. There's some pretty highly paid people in Ocean Pines. They need to act like
Professional.
a highly paid executive.
And help us help them.
Well, to me, the disrespect.
Yeah.
Is just palpable at this point. And because number one, we put forth a request, and never heard back for a while what anybody was doing, if anything. And then these signs appeared, and that's when Sharon said John Viola ordered them. And of course, we were very happy. But if he thought then, well, and I can always use them for another purpose, or decided later, he, in my mind, was obligated to let us know that was a decision that Ocean Pines made. Because you're right, here we are running around looking for signs that disappear. I'm thinking people are stealing them, because they think they're cute. But and then we just spend time to fix them, and then there's no feedback whatsoever. There's just this, we're just going to take these and we're not even going to tell you about it.
And what I'm
That's,
afraid of
you know.
when the comment was made, repurposed for the community,
Mm.
is that they had a need for signs for whatever,
Right.
if it's the trails or whatever, and they got these handy little signs and they make the excuse that it's not on Ocean Pines property. So we can take it whenever we want. And,
Have we seen
ignoring all
the- have we seen the signs anywhere?
No, that's the next question.
I-
I haven't, have you
Yeah.
seen?
Where have you seen them?
The first two that were taken from Racetrack Road. And this, again, that was the first info request about them repurposed. If you ever go over on the Robin Hood Trail, when the trail crosses any of those roads, they got the signs right there. So I know at least those two were used for that because the Rec and Park Committee requested signs. Well,
Here,
hey,
we got some.
we got a nice handy ones. And the fact that we put in that request to add signs back in was ignored because, again, it appears that they didn't want to bother to purchase new signs.
Right.
So they're just, it's salvaging our existing signs.
Well, then there should be.
We put a lot
communication
of work
between
into carrying those signs, because remember, I had to carry some of the signs, I swear, about half a mile because the road wasn't even close to me.
And
And I'm climbing up a hill pulling it on my back.
I was supervising.
And I single-handedly loaded all 6 of those signs into my car, took them home. My husband fixed them. I loaded them all back in and carried them out to where they were, just to have them start disappearing the
Things that.
Yeah.
2 weeks later.
Now, hardly see any of them.
Okay,
This is probably, you guys probably discussed this when the sign issue came up before I was here. Is there any thought to putting them in permanently with a post?
No, we never talked about permanent because first of all, the issue of them East Crossing is a pretty defined period of time. They don't usually walk around in the winter. They walk when they molt and they walk when they have babies. They shuttle the babies around, and so there's a defined period of time. And I don't know that anybody ever thought about permanent signs.
I don't think no one would take them or remove them.
Well-
We put in a 4x4 post and
And
Yeah,
I,
well, that was one of the problems, when you put in a permanent sign, you're gonna have to dig the hole and plant it and
Right.
everything. And we just weren't there, and it didn't make any sense.
well, the reason why you weren't there, because based on the committee experience, we know if we ask for too much,
Yeah, that's a big
it's
part.
even a worse
But
response.
we wouldn't have any signs by now.
Yeah,
Right.
So
We
you,
needed holes dug.
Right.
so you try to come up with an effective strategy that would be acceptable with low impact on cost and effort. And that's exactly what happened. And again, when they started to remove the signs, it wasn't, a week later because it was a wrong location.
Right,
It
right.
was months later.
And it was during
Name.
the time period that those signs are needed.
Yeah.
That's the other thing is there's like there's a lack of understanding of this particular wildlife issue because those signs can be moved in the winter, which I think was possibly our initial thought that we'd store them.
Yeah,
Yeah, because,
Yeah.
because we knew the geese weren't around, and also if you plowed, the snow would, God's sake,
Right.
be a pain
Right.
in the
But
butt.
we're in the middle of the period when they are wandering and they're raising their young and they're,
Well, again, ideally, we would have liked to have stored the signs, but again, the reaction from Public Works was, we don't want to help you. We don't want to store it, it's your job to maintain them. It's your
Yeah.
responsibility.
But we would have figured out a way. I mean,
Yeah.
most of us have garages. We could, and it's like each person take a sign.
Wow.
We're pretty creative in this committee,
Yeah.
but yes, it was very obvious when John and I went to, Public Works to get the signs. It was very obvious that they wanted nothing to do with the signs, nothing to do with helping us, nothing to do with anything. They just get those signs out of here. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, I'm gonna move on to the next subject.
Somebody should have brought donuts.
Before we move on, can I make a comment?
Yeah, Pat.
I don't know if you guys have the chat open, but I've been posting some stuff in the chat.
Oh.
I'm curious. I know a new directive came down, and you may or may not be aware that Worcester County is gonna has a new policy starting August 1st about removing certain signs in areas of public egress, and that's something we might want to look into to make sure that we're in compliance. Also, going forward, I know we're having an election, and I'm sorry that I don't keep up with a lot of the politics. But is there a possibility of a better collaborative relationship if a new board is elected? I mean, a shakeup up top might help us solve some of these issues.
Well, I guess that's hypothetical. So,
And honestly, I don't think so, because I think it's John Viola.
well,
You know, I
yeah,
don't think the board said, let's move these signs.
Yeah.
because this problem began early last year. And it's related to something that I said a couple of meetings ago, that it's a pattern with the board and the administration, that it's not any kind of personality problems. We could comment further on that, but I think that's part of the problem. So
Thank
we can hope that, when you do have different people, things change. That's how matrix organizations with people occurs. That's human nature. So yes, that's a possibility, but on the other hand, there's a longer term problem. Now, this new directive on the signs, where did you see that, Pat?
If you just Google Worcester County to remove snipe signs, it'll pull up the if you guys, I can share the ad if you want on.
Yeah, again, sorry we're not seeing the chat. It's
That's all right.
I'm 30 feet away from the controls, so it's
Okay, let me pull it up. I think I have it in here. Can you see my screen?
yeah.
Snipe, the snipe sign.
So based on that picture, it looks like it's like random.
Tacked, nailed, posted, pasted, glued, or otherwise attached to trees, poles, stakes, fences, or other objects.
Okay.
No, that doesn't apply to ours.
No, it doesn't.
But what, I'm just curious, what's a snipe sign?
I think that what I just said is kind of the definition of a snipe sign.
Oh,
It's a
accurate.
temporary.
It's a very broad definition, and I guess there's some wiggle room with interpretation that we need to look into.
Well, obviously, I mean, that looks like they're trying to beautify, our neighborhoods. It's so that those kinds of things, which looks kind of trashy on public infrastructure, is what they're trying to clean that up, obviously. I don't think our signs anywhere qualifies as that. It's a nicely made and printed sign that was also discussed with Worcester County in the beginning. So, so I doubt, I very much doubt that potentially could affect the geese signs. I mean, we can look at that, but that looks like that's more of a public beautification effort. Okay. Anything else, Pat? Did you have any? I didn't see your chat.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. I was just curious. There's a lot of sign controversy lately, and it seems a little vague. So I
Right.
understand our purpose. So I hope the communication and the clarification increase.
Right. Okay. All right, water quality monitoring, I haven't heard anything from the Marine Committee or John Latham about the water test kits, or I would expect that they have them by now.
The last I talked to Brenda, she said that they, and this has been a couple of months, she said they didn't have them yet. They were still waiting on them. So
Okay.
I can touch base with her and ask her for the status. She and I have been talking about that.
Brenda Davis.
Yes.
I'd spoken with Taylor a month or so ago. He was working on getting them, I guess.
Yeah.
And I guess with all the funding
Yeah.
from Ocean Pines to get them purchased.
Okay, so it's still,
You know, there are results out there, and if you look at what's it called, www.theswingguide.org, you can navigate to the beaches in this area that they sample at,
Yeah.
and you can see what the results are. They don't give you any real data other than, you know, testing positive, testing or failing, and so you either get a green rating or a red rating, but you really can't see what the, you know, the amount of bacteria is in the water. It's just an overall score.
okay, all right, well, you're up next, Don. And did you,
Can see that when
so this is a little in history here, because I know you brought up the issues of multi volcanoes well, actually, Patty brought up the sediment erosion thing. You know, several weeks ago, did you get any, Don, any other feedback about multi volcanoes?
I did not submit anything to
Okay.
Ocean Pine Info. I think it's kind of a silly way to do things.
Right.
I mean,
Well, I'll read that.
because we should get some sort of feedback officially rather than just Ocean Pines Info. I have a presentation that I had sent to you,
Yeah.
Jeff.
Right.
I could forward that to him. That's not a big deal. But.
Yeah, again, because of the community, we've talked about a communication problem. Sharon did this too. She used Info at Ocean Pines because it's much more effective on a relative basis. That's how I found out about what happened to the geese signs. Otherwise, we still would have been in the dark. So, because that's a a community-wide thing, it's not really a specific new issue. It's a general practice. So I think it's appropriate just to send that into Info. What they do, somebody screens it and they'll forward it on to the people that deal with it. So just to kind of cover that base, I guess I suggest to do that.
Okay.
Okay. And then the sediment erosion that Patty saw on Manklin Creek, the sediment coming out of the bracket area and public works area from the, I think you said it also, mostly it looked like the gravel, fine gravel, sand from the parking lots and the roadways over there that's washing off into the creek.
A lot has happened.
Oh, okay.
Jeff's probably aware of this too. Unfortunately, I'm now, the board is now aware of it. So, I sent the pictures and everything to Info at Ocean Pines. They wrote back to me and said, Manklin Creek's not navigable there, and you don't get an assessment for being waterfront property. So they didn't say the words, but basically don't worry about it.
Right.
So no acknowledgement or indication of anything related to the sedimentation.
Right.
But your property is not waterfront because you don't pay an assessment, so don't worry about it. After that,
So let me ask you, so nobody on Manklin Creek pays an assessment?
no, we're at the high end.
Yeah, no,
But we do not have No, we don't have waterfront assessment because it's not navigable. I think above the, I don't know exactly where,
not certain.
approximately at where you are at where the boathouse is. And it might even be, I don't know where
Right.
the extents are,
Interesting.
but we don't have a waterfront assessment.
All right.
And I think that's mostly tied if there's a bulkhead presence. And you don't have
Yeah.
a bulkhead.
Yeah.
I think you have a partial one.
Oh, yeah,
I
exactly.
have a bulkhead.
Yeah, so, yeah, obviously. So that's, obviously you gotta pay for maintaining the bulkhead. So,
So
So if someone does have a bulkhead and they ask, will they get the information?
I don't know. But it went, my inquiry was the sedimentation with these pretty dramatic pictures. And my response was, you're not being charged an assessment for waterfront property.
It seems to have nothing to do with them.
Nothing.
well, that was almost like a flinch reaction to homeowners.
So in the meantime, my brother lives in Ocean Pines and we had this conversation and my sister-in-law, bless her heart, works for Coastal Hospice and I volunteer for Coastal Hospice. So at an event, my sister-in-law was kind enough to introduce me to a couple of politicians and said, tell Wayne Hartman what's going on in Macklin Creek. So long story short, Wayne told me to get in touch with Josh Davis. Josh Davis did not respond to me. Wayne's office contacted me about a week later and said, have you heard anything? And I said, no. So he apparently got in touch with John Viola or somebody there and said, respond to her. So I got a response that said, Macklin Creek isn't navigable there. Your docks are only for looking, I think was the word. My dock is there just to go out and look at the creek, and kayaks aren't allowed there.
What?
Does that have to do with erosion?
Absolutely nothing. It's like, and Macklin Creek can't be dredged, which was actually in my first email or first message to info. I said, Macklin Creek can't be dredged in this area. I already knew that. So all the sediment's pouring in and it's just filling up. So they said Macklin Creek can't be dredged. You can't, and you can't even put a kayak on it. So that's where I am right now.
So if I take my kayak up to your house, is the Ocean Pines Police gonna
I guess. Well,
arrest me?
and interestingly, and I've been losing sleep over this, which is ridiculous, but as I laid my head on the pillow last night, I remembered the U.S. Coast Guard going all the way up to the far end, way past my house in Macklin Creek. And we were it was dramatic. So when they came back, we're like, hey, what's going on? They said, oh, we just got a new boat and we were just out to make sure we can get into all of the areas that we need to go to. So the U.S. Coast Guard is up there. Okay, none of it makes sense. So where it is now is Wayne Hartman's office has asked John Viola to have somebody get in touch with me. In the meantime, there is another sedimentation issue 2 lots down, and I don't know if you were where this one, Tim, when they're building this gigantic house on this little itty bitty lot and filled in wetlands, and they're running a dock 50 feet out into the middle of the creek
That they can't use.
that they can't use. Well, they cleared the site, took down all the trees, came in with tons and tons of filled in all the wetlands, made the site, and that was about a month ago. And there's not been anything done on the site since. My neighbor thinks that there was an issue with the owner and whatnot, but I did sediment erosion control plans for 20 years, designed and implemented. And if a site isn't worked after 3 days, it's 3 or 4 days, I thought it was 7, it needs to be temporarily stabilized. So I sent to Worcester County and info at OP, and at the time it had been sitting for 2 weeks. It needs to be temporary seeded, and there's a major drainage course there, and for some reason, when they cleared the site, they dug up the bottom of the drainage course. So now the actual drainage course where all the stormwater goes is sand, dirt. And the site is still sitting there after all these weeks. And I attached the erosion control guidance saying that, and haven't heard anything from anybody on that. And that's
County.
including the county.
And I have a question about the impact of this lack of doing anything about this, because I don't know anything, but I am on a canal, not far away from you. I'm on Golden Eye Canal. But if sediment and erosion continues in your area, does it begin to extend further
Downstream.
Sure.
and make the possibility of other areas not navigable that currently are? Or, I mean,
I would say not in the next 5 years, but over time, absolutely.
I mean,
And-
yeah, so this isn't just a,
Argument about, well, a little upgrading section of the street.
right,
No,
there is
this
a
is-
real,
This is a global thing. This is, and the lack of caring about it and interest in it is really disturbing,
Yeah.
because this is two unrelated incidents doing the same thing and how it works out. And I'll tell you something else. In the email from Hartman's office that he was forwarding the information that he had gotten from Ocean Pines, it said that the reason Manklin Creek can't be dredged there was because it was a shellfish habitat or something like that. When I moved here in 2016, for years, and you're going to think this is gross, but I harvested mussels off my dock and did the switch in the water to get them to spit the we ate mussels off my dock. There is not a mussel in sight now.
Because of the
I
sedimentation.
don't know why, but there's not a mussel in sight. And I just go out and just pick them off and put them in the buckets and a couple of times a season. So that creek is,
Well, do you want to, well, one thing about contacting Josh Davis, he is very, very careful about communication with committees. And he knows he's prohibited by talking to.
it was actually Mary Beth Carosa who told me to contact Josh Davis.
Well, obviously
And-
he has, an inside track. We don't.
And and I know not to contact Josh
Yeah.
Davis, but if Mary Beth Carosa
Yeah.
says, you brought this problem to me, so here's what I want you to do about it, I'm gonna do it.
Well, did you mention that Mary, when
Yes,
you contacted
she
Josh?
said, when you reach out to him, tell him that I support this and I want him to work on this. And I put that in my email to him. She said, I didn't say she wants you to, she said to tell you that she
Well, when did,
supports this.
When did Hartman get involved?
Same time, I met both of them at
Okay.
the same event.
The
And here's
Carosa
what,
gave you
well,
that,
here's what
right?
happened. Hartman said, send me the pictures and I'll send it to our organization. Carosa said, she handed it off to me and told me, okay. So I didn't want to go in both directions at the same time. So I sent a message to Hartman, told him that she had told me to do that. So I'm going to follow that path. Well, he wanted to do something. So he
Right.
got involved too.
Asked John Viola to contact.
Right.
him, which he never did.
Well, that was just yesterday or the day before that I got that email.
Do you want, at this point, because we care about this, so this is
Yeah.
not, this is kind of not a committee function, but we care about the issue. Do you want to just simply follow up with, the two of them? and
Yes.
Saying
Yes.
you've got no responses so far, or they,
I tried after a week when I hadn't gotten responses, I thought, they don't like me very much anyway, so I'm going to give them 2 weeks. And so then in the second week was when I got the message back from Hartman and so then I have just kind of been going with that, but I would like to follow up on it because I don't want this to reflect on the committee. I
right,
wanted to reflect on me. I already feel like I'm in big trouble, but if it means something good will come of it.
Well, okay, keep that concept in mind, that it reflects the committee, okay, because we're gonna touch on that later. So it's so in other words, you were being proactive,
I was being proactive.
and if you actually helped to resolve it, that would have the public, not opinion, but view of an advisory committee would have been more positive as if they were become involved with it. So
Okay,
remember that concept. We're going to touch on that again later.
Okay.
So I think it's fantastic what you did with that,
thank you.
because, we're inhibited.
Yep.
As a committee, obviously. That's why we use info at Ocean Ponds, because it's a mechanism, it's a tool that actually works, compared to any other homeowners association process. And, so
Well,
good luck with this.
well, I'll just say one more thing, and this really, really upsets me. When the email that came back from Hartman, and he was, like I said, forwarding what he had gotten from, and when it was saying about the limitations on Macklin Creek, the last thing was no kayaking allowed. So Brian's going to be mad at me because he kayaks up by my house all the
Couple times a
time.
week.
So,
I'm going to read an article in the Ocean Dispatch about a guy kayaking on the creek.
so I mean, that's just, to me, absolutely absurd. I don't know where that's coming from.
Yeah, it's a
but-
breakdown in communication. It's like they lost the focus of what the point is.
I can see my house being firebombed
Yeah.
if the OP police are out there handing people. It's like my next door neighbors kayak all the time, Brian all the time.
I don't think you could, that Macklin Creek is owned by State of Maryland. It's not Ocean Pines, so
Well, according to them, this is all coming down from the state of Maryland.
you can't kayak. Oh, gosh. Is this something that ACT would be interested in taking up?
Actually,
I talked to Brenda about it, and then I hadn't talked to her since it got this in depth, but I did talk to her initially about that exact situation with the sedimentation from the,
Is it the type of thing they do, right?
I think Coastal Bay actually may.
Maybe.
Coastal Bays, yeah.
It would probably be more sensitive.
But Taylor's aware of it as well.
Yeah.
Taylor's taken over.
I didn't know
He's
that.
the director.
Okay. Oh, good. He's a good guy.
I don't kayak, but, how would anyone know that you can't kayak there?
Right.
There's no, maybe they're gonna put one of those signs and change the thing and say, no kayak.
Take one of our good signs.
It blows me away
But
that
there's
that,
no sign.
not only, there's no
can't do it.
reason, there's enough, and it just makes me feel like back off.
Yeah.
That's how it makes me feel.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that is what's happening, or if I'm gonna get, like a citation for kayaking, or I'm off to sell my kayaks. I don't know. But it certainly makes me feel like it's a,
If you go down by her house, every house has got kayaks
every
lined
house.
up. in front.
because there's not enough water to have motorboats.
Exactly, yes.
So we all have kayaks.
Well, and people
Well-
like to kayak.
Yeah.
Kayak, like in our canal. There's people with kayaks and they go up to the end of the canal and then they don't go out into the bay. They turn and go down toward because
There's an official kayak launch,
Right down the,
officially approved.
Yeah. Right
as
down
Ocean
the-
Pines
in
likes
Boston.
to say, off of Boston.
Yeah.
Which
It's
is, so
Macklin
you could
Creek.
easily go back up Macklin from
Yeah.
that officially approved kayak.
maybe they put a left turn only sign. I will forward that email to you for your situational awareness, not for action, but it's kind of interesting. So I'll forward it.
Well, again, we're trying to be creative here and to trying to improve the environment. And as of the resolution says, it functions one way or another. And so this is obviously an issue. The other ideas I have is maybe you could forward that to the Marine Activities Committee,
Well, I could do that.
because they tend to be very sensitive
You can
about.
just sign a concern that says,
Yeah. Well,
keep it, get your name.
on the sediment erosion control on the house lot, the info told me that they forwarded it to CPI for action, and that was 2 weeks ago.
But the Marine, if we can get more collaboration,
I got it.
maybe there'll be more, my impression of the Marine Committee is they really do care about the canals and the waterways where boating happens. And they would probably be shocked by, you don't have to tell them all that, by what the responses you had got about no kayaks and it's not navigable and so on. So, more committee collaboration, the better.
I'll do that.
Okay, anything more on the sediment erosion?
No,
Thank you.
I'll try to walk with my blinders on. I'm kidding.
Just don't kind.
Well, we can have a kayak protest there.
Yeah.
I'll show up.
That would be funny. And have the dispatch come out and
Yeah.
take a picture.
Get,
No, you can't talk to them.
Oh.
no, we'll get Cindy Hoffman to take some pictures.
Yeah. She reached out to me, by the way. And it was nice. Anyway,
Yeah, well, she cares. I mean,
yes, she does.
Okay, the Swim and Racket Club. So David Donahue has confirmed that she got the application she talked about. I think I might need to put up a new sign out there. So as soon as that's done, I guess we can plan an event. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? I mean, should we wait until we get the official okay, or we just go and start planning it? One thing, part of this, if we remove any trash, pick up any trash, and we would do the any kind of invasive junk that's out there too. We can stockpile that stuff and bags or whatever, and then the ID process is Public Works will come over and pick that junk up. So
There are dumpsters. There is a dumpster over there.
Sure.
well, I mean, yeah.
By the little beach, is that where the dumpster is? Yeah, you're right.
And I think it's there year round.
I don't think it's, imagine being more than a bag or two, so.
Yeah, right. We wouldn't want to overwhelm the dumpster, but yeah, if it's only, essentially one trash, big black bag, then that's should be a problem. But, so I don't know, do we want to plan something maybe for August?
Are we doing it as a group or
Yeah, we're the committee.
or just somebody to pick a time and go?
But
Well, you could, but,
we haven't been approved yet or haven't
well,
heard anything.
she got the application.
Right.
So, and then she said, oh, I might have to get a sign up there because they put adopted by. So we can wait for that, because we might get a kayak violation otherwise.
All right, let's wait.
All right, we'll wait.
Yeah, I think I'd be in favor of waiting.
Okay. You want to upset anybody?
No.
Hurt anybody's feelings?
Make sure it's all done.
Okay, oyster cage. So actually, so I think, I mentioned to you that I had to move in, because where it was by the gazebo, somebody, moved it. It was found by another oyster person, a friend of Joe, up on the land on the other side of that little pond. And fortunately, we found it. And so I got it back. We had to put new oysters in it. And so cleaned it up. And so I didn't put it there. So where I put it was really at the end of the bulkhead. If you ever seen that big wooden bench that's out near that gazebo, it's like two big semicircle benches. The bulkhead just beyond that bench, I've got it tethered off to the side of the bulkhead. So it's not, you wouldn't notice it unless you looked over the bulkhead, saw it. So you see it floating there. Anybody that's out on the water or even the pool, you see it there. When I was meeting Joe to reposition that thing, there was a family crabbing in the gazebo. So obviously, there's a lot of people that frequent that area. So in other words, it wasn't a good spot to put it because people just there have a high curiosity and they like to play with things, and that's what happened. So hopefully it's more hidden, it's not obvious, it's tied to the side of the bulkhead, not at the top of it. So again, you wouldn't see anything unless you looked over. So what I've been doing weekly is that thing just loves algae. It's like an algae, Petri dish or whatever. And so I simply take it out. It's, it's a light thing. And I take it over near the dock and I grab one of those hoses there and rinse it off. But I've been basically doing it weekly now because I take a trip back from Magnet Creek Road on Saturday. So it's on my way. I take care of it like that. And I wash it off. So that works pretty good just with the hose and, kind of clean off the oysters too. And a big little scrubbing brush probably wouldn't hurt either because you really have to force off that algae. Now, when they shut down that dock and the spigots over the winter, and I'm not sure when that would happen, if that's October or something like that, we would have to do something different and probably, I guess, just get a big bucket of water and a brush and just use that. Is the algae growth less prevalent during the cold months?
Yeah, so what I do, I don't even do as much as you do, but once a week I lift my oyster cage and bounce it on top of the water a couple of times and the algae goes.
All right, okay. Well, I mean, weekly, I just simply use the hose.
Just bounce it up and down.
I could try that too, but
Now, does it get caught on the bulkhead at all?
no.
I'm having it, I was gonna ask you about that. When low tide, mine kind of gets caught, no matter where I put it, kind of gets caught on
A
the
ledge or
cross
something?
beam of the
Yeah.
bulkhead and is out of water for a little bit. Is that,
They can survive out of water for 24 hours.
okay? Oh,
So as the tide comes back, it's
all right, good.
refloated.
Mine doesn't get that, I mean, right now, about once a month is about the most I need to clean mine, but you might be in a different.
Yeah, it's not like it's gross and hanging off of it, but it's obviously coating the
Right.
the fabric. So,
It'll get much less as the water gets cooler.
but that's, I mean, yeah, the alternative maybe during the cold months is it's just a simple rinse of the water will take care of the job. But you obviously, you would want to do it like once a week. Because if it gets too thick, it's hard, and it gets harder. You can't rinse it off.
So the oyster signs are still at the gazebo.
The Coastal Bay put up, yeah. And again, when I told Carly about, hey, we, all enthusiastic, we put an oyster cage by the gazebo, but, she said, well, when they had them out there before, somebody removed them. And I think it was Joe because it just wasn't working there.
Yeah.
Either it was neglect or it was just too stagnant water and those things were.
It's just a shame because, you have vandalism basically of an oyster cage, right? What we're trying to do there is public education and it's just not working for that intent.
Right. Well, you got the sign, at least people see it, but we can't let the juveniles get near it. Okay. So anyway, I'm taking care of that through September. I think, Don, you said you were going to do it after that for the next quarter.
Right.
And so hopefully just a simple rinse in the water will take care of it. Obviously, we need to make a big project out of that. We could also take care of that when we do a cleanup park. And when I was walking around there, I did notice some trash. It does There's a lot of like low shrubs that tends to collect the trash. I think it would be a good worthwhile place to adopt. Okay. Patricia talked about a field trip to the county recycling center. She saw the article that Cindy Hoffman wrote, and I guess part of the educational issue is to help reinforce that we would go there as a group, and then we can use that information for the next Green Street article. That sound like a worthwhile thing? The center is down, I think, near Newark.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll tell Patricia, contact the county to arrange that. And then that would probably be the topic of our next article. We got to do that soon, because the article's not due, I think, until at least September. So we should be able to get through that by then. Okay, the next big item. I don't know, do any of you view the Ocean Pines Forum?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so a couple of you do. I do not.
I try not to on purpose.
Huh?
I try not to on purpose.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I don't open it up or anything else, but if an email comes to me, I will read that email and then discard it, but because most of the time it's
Very
Well,
inflammatory.
but the one I did read that I guess was comments from.
Well, in the end, it's actually, we have a good ending ultimately in this. For the sake of Ocean Pines.
Hmm.
All right, so here's my statement. On the matter of lack of control on tree cutting on new home lots and lots with existing homes, the ENA committee submitted 3 separate statements of concern or inquiries to OPA through the board liaison in February, March, and May 2023 last year. This issue was highlighted by the ENA chairperson in the annual executive board of directors meeting in March 2024. In addition, the ENA chairperson inquired with the ARC committee chair on this situation in that same month, March, considering that the ARC is involved with permit reviews, including tree cut permits. That chair, and by the way, if you ever see a new construction lot and you look at the permit on site, there is a signature by ARC as well. So somehow they're involved, not just with existing home trees, but also new construction. If that's trees or other issues with the ARC guidelines. That chairperson at the ARC contacted the CPI department on why clear cutting is allowed in all of these cases. So from that response and then all the previous communications, in all cases, OPA responded with brief statements that the county tree cutting policy superseded the Ocean Pines policy with no further explanation. A very brief response. This, and as I stated, this situation is contrary to tree policies over the last 50 years within Ocean Pines, where Ocean Pines followed its covenant on preserving the native trees across Ocean Pines. This is all documented. There's such a thing as a covenant. It covers many things, but it also talks about trees. The ENA committee requested that the established Ocean Pines covenant be applied concerning tree cutting on new lots as legally allowed and as followed over the last 50 years. 5-0. On the Independent Ocean Pines Forum in July 2024, due to recent tree cutting observed, it was clear cut on a new lot. Residents voiced a protest on why new home lots are allowed to be clear cut. Several residents in that commentary commented that this clear cutting was not followed in the past and argue over how Ocean Pines allows the clearing now. As a result of the resident commentary on the Ocean Pines Forum, The general manager briefly noted during the board meeting on July 20th that he's seen recent questions on this matter, noted the forum discussion, and found it educational. Thus, Ocean Pines will not, what he said, Ocean Pines will now review for reasonableness the current DNR regulations concerning new construction permits and tree cutting policies. No other questions on commentary on this matter during the board meeting. The ENA committee is obviously highly concerned on this issue and requests to be formed on the final policy. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
In addition, the committee would like to be consulted on the review of the policy, but we have little expectation that this will happen given the history of committee experience. And this is kind of where I was falling back to the comment on, again, I think we're really talking about, so the committee was kind of, all our previous communication was overlooked, and it took residents to bring up the issues, and then there was a reaction. Obviously, a homeowners association with this matrix of committees is to prevent that kind of thing, where the residents don't have to protest on an issue. But when we see obvious issues, we work through that homeowners association to resolve problems before they become serious. Because this tree cutting was going on for at least 2 years, maybe 3 years. And so we've lost many trees, and who knows how many more we're going to lose before they actually implement some kind of a policy on tree cutting. Because we don't even know if they're going to go back to the original, what's called the DNRs, to restrict tree cutting. And again, if you look at any of the old homes in Ocean Pines, your first question could be, wow, they look how they fit that house in between all those trees on that line. And my house is a prefab. It came in 2 sections. When I moved in there in 2002, there was large trees within like 6 feet of the house. How could you get this big, tractor trailer size module, run it down the driveway, and then shift it in between the house to set it up on the foundation without needing to cut extra trees down? Obviously, when the house was built in 1975, things were a lot different from now. So just as one example. All right, any comments on tree cutting?
Yeah, I was a chairman of the planning commission in my township when I lived in Pennsylvania. And one of the things we had was an ordinance, a zoning ordinance regarding a landscaping plan requirement when you had a new development commit, and whether it's for an individual home or it's for an industrial facility. And we loaded this thing up. I mean, you had a farce by the time you get done with this, but that was a negotiating point from the planning commission. So I know we don't have that here. I looked at the building requirements. I don't see that here, but that right there could be a potential solution to get a better control on new home construction.
What
requirement of a landscaping plan. Now, I live in Colonial Village, and there's a requirement you have 2 or 3 street trees, but I'm not sure if there's any other requirement. I don't think there is street tree requirement. Hedge or a picket fence in front of your house. That's another requirement. But as far as number of trees or taking down trees or having a landscaping plan for new development, because I showed that one lot was clear cut. There might be an opportunity for getting control on some sort of
Well, I think, again, when I was through these inquiries, one of the indicators was that the builder has to submit a plan to the county. And I think that could be interpreted as a landscaping plan. That's where I think it's part of their construction permit. They discuss where they're gonna be removing trees. It might not be a formal plan, but I think that's part of what I heard. And I think from the ARC chairman, the former one, that is part of that plan. Is it a formal landscaping plan? Is there a formal zoning ordinance about the issue? Probably not. So yeah, there probably could be an enhancement of the issue. But I think at least present day, there is something in the building permit about that.
Well, all those building plans were submitted to the county, that becomes, a FOIA request. And we could educate ourselves to see whether or not, what is included in that permit.
Do you want to look that up?
I'll see what I can do.
Why don't you first contact the ARC chairman and just maybe he has a shortcut to find out that information.
So what happened with the new development, the new section of Ocean Pines, where they clear cut the whole field?
Well, again, when we had Brenda here, when we brought that up in March, that was like a separate defined.
She said that was approved 20 years ago or something.
Yeah. So separate, I think, from
I
Ocean
forgot.
Pines history,
Yeah.
because I don't think that was ever part of Ocean Pines
Right.
somehow.
Yeah, but they annexed it or something.
Yeah.
Well, something I noticed, I live on Watertown Road, and along the water, all the little bungalows have been taken out, even since I've been there. And the new homes that are going in are stretching this to every bit of
Correct.
they can have it. So,
And as high as they
and
can
as high as they can go. I think the problem with that is now they're 8 feet from the property line, which I think you can have a tree cut if you're within 8 feet. So
Or I think it's 10 feet.
they're 10
10
feet.
feet of your foundation.
Yeah. So, and the
That's
houses are,
Yeah,
The
well,
lots.
that is part of the pattern that's going on.
but that's all legal, right?
Yes.
For Ocean Ponds.
Yeah.
It's
No,
just- it's
that
bad,
would be,
but that's what's going on, at least on the Watertown.
Ocean lots.
but I think in this forum commentary, somebody said they even took down a tree that was mostly on the other adjacent property. They would just overlap a little bit on the build lot and they cut that down. So it's, I mean, I think that's part of the phenomenon that's going on is these bigger houses, and that's why the builders just don't want to make any effort at all on saving any trees. But and we're not asking, I think, we're not, I think we're being reasonable. I think Bruce Bright brought up in the forum that, the builders need space to build a house, it's okay. But the clear cut from the line to the line is what's happening. Because obviously the builders know through the county permit that that's so-called, the county permitted it. And that's when they just simply tell the forester, go in there, clear the line. They got stakes out there for the property lines and they go up the stake to stake. And that's even more gross. So I think we're just talking about, save the trees along the property line. You're still with, outside of that, because the tree permits now says you can cut a tree down that's within 10 feet. So of the house. So if the tree is in, closer than 10 feet, you're permitted to cut it. But obviously there's a little more space on these lots where at least the ones along the sides, or in the front. Because typically the houses are set back like 25 feet. And I think that's the code. So you've got 25 feet where you can save the trees, but they're going from the road all the way, maybe not all the way to the back boundary, but pretty far. So anyway, Ocean Pines is looking at this, and I guess would anybody guess what that means and when it would be implemented? So I don't know. I wanted to inform you again, it's an issue that is part of our responsibility, but we weren't able to effectively have any effect on that issue. Okay, anything else? All right, now we're to public comments. Jeff, so what's your grand wisdom?
I'll make a couple comments on the new home build. There obviously has been an acknowledgement that there is an issue, which is a good thing, right? So he said.
Right.
And John Viola has committed to engage CPI to make sure that any new homes built will adhere to our guidelines. Whatever the issue was, however, I have no idea. I don't think anybody knows how
Exactly how
it
it's
got to where it got over the last couple of years. That's a good thing.
right.
So,
Exactly. But I guess our frustration is we could have avoided a lot of that if there was some attention last year on the issue.
yeah, I mean, if, you know, I can't comment on what transpired in the past, but you know, it's good now. So it's not like they're building 300 new homes a year here.
Yeah, fortunately,
Which they used to, so. that's-
Yeah, it's the random lot
Right,
around
when you're
here.
tearing down a bungalow or building a new house or whatever, there, you know, there's a lot less home builds than there used to be, which, you know, so that's good. The sediment washing, I'd have to agree. I don't know what, there's no correlation between kayaking and sediment, but what I did hear you say, correct me if I'm wrong, that you did get acknowledgement that CPI was gonna look at it. Did you, is that what I heard?
The info at OP said,
I mean, Public Works. said
No.
you're Gonna look at it.
no, absolutely not.
Okay, I thought I heard.
No, I said well, there's two issues. The issue on the home build, they said they forwarded it to CPI because it's a inspection issue, I assume, because the lot, okay. The one that deals with the public works area, nobody from Ocean Pines has.
Okay.
Well, I guess Josh Davis indirectly by way of Wayne Hartman.
So
That's the-
I got it in my notes.
I'll forward
to
I'll
follow.
forward that to
Yeah,
you.
please do. And I got it in my notes to follow up on. What's what I want to say? I always take notes, but I will follow through on your feelings that, you know, that where your morale is come into play and your ability to fulfill your mission due to the sign issue. I absolutely will follow up on that for the sign issue. The egg addling for next year. I mean, it's not too early to get in front of that. I think that's all I got. I did bring 2 native plants. If anybody's interested, I'm growing a pollinator garden. I grew those, my wife grew those by seed. So anybody that wants them, please feel free to.
How are they?
One is, milkweed.
Wait,
What did you say? I forget.
Lobelia, maybe?
Lobelia, mine is doing great, by the way, that I
Anybody
got
wants it, please.
beta.
Oh, mine
Okay.
too.
Yeah,
How big?
Is it blooming now?
not yet.
Okay.
Is yours blooming?
No, but it's,
Yeah.
And they will
Looks
receive.
good.
healthy and good.
Well, I picked I got one of those CEO things from the Coastal Bay giveaway. I planted it
Yeah, we got
next to my driveway where it tends to get wet. And I got one from last year. They're both doing okay. They're growing. So someplace where CEOs basic. But could I use that? I don't know. I have my bike with me, so right now I physically cannot carry that, so.
If no one, I'll take one if no one else.
Why don't you stick it on your non-navigable?
I would love to take one, but I would give it anybody else who wants one first opportunity.
I'd have to take trees down in my lot.
Oh, and one other comment. There is a point system that the county employs with a landscaping plan. So depending on how many trees have been asked to be removed, don't ask me the specifics. I didn't look it up before this meeting. But there is a point system that exists, and you've taken down that tree, okay, that's worth whatever. And then the points tell you how many trees you need to remove.
Well, okay, that's the critical area regulations, and that's how they regulate. Because the one lot that was in the forum was a waterfront lot. So that's where that's strictly applied in a more formal process. And again, part of the problem is that all the inland lots are there is no county regulation. That's where Ocean Pines comes into play. And then again, hopefully, however they re-review this, that they'll pay attention to the inland lots too. Now, that as far as when you observe the critical area lots and how they rebuilt the lots, that point system doesn't look like it's doing a good job because there's one on I think it's Battersea, right at the end of Battersea, and Cindy Hoffman has one in her street, and where what they replant is maybe some native shrubs or maybe a couple young trees or arborvitaes, which that's sort of native to the northeastern United States, but it's not really native to this area. So technically they use that, but we can comment about, but that's a county problem. Okay. All right, we're into the open discussion. Anything else to talk about?
It's kind of interesting. We're going to go to maybe do a field trip to recycling center. But one of the things that I noticed during the Ocean Pines opening day back in April is a lack of recycling containers available for individuals purchasing stuff from the food trucks. Are those things available? Maybe that was just an oversight on my part, but
well, no, there's one that next to the bathrooms there's a bin over there. There's a plastic bin. You'll see.
Yeah.
But it looks like it's just chock full of paper. I don't know if Republic actually takes care of it. But you're right. There is as far as I know, there's nothing else around.
Because in the event we were cleaning up and working to find a recyclable disposal container, and there wasn't any.
Yeah.
So that's
well, when we do that field trip, why don't we talk to the county about that? Maybe get how can Ocean Pines obtain a container, right? And if they give them away free, maybe we can say, okay, Ocean Pines, here's a free container. Why don't we have one over at Whitehorse Park that's highly utilized for stuff? Now, the problem is, all right, well, who's going to pick that up?
sounds like more work for Public Works.
Well, yeah, maybe, Patty, can you go over to Public Works and talk to them?
Let me get rid of that.
I know they love you. Just bring some donuts.
Ask Rod to go over.
Yeah,
But
you know that.
I mean, we really think of environmental natural assets. I mean, recycling
Yeah.
falls into our bailiwick.
Well, I mean, maybe it doesn't have to be Public Works. Maybe it's just part of the Republic pickup. Because, they probably take care of the dumpsters.
Oh, I wonder who takes care of the trash cans in the park and stuff. That's probably Public Works.
Well, we would, we need to research. So let's take the first step. We'll go to the center, say, hey, you guys have bins. And then maybe whatever we learn there, but maybe to take the next step, maybe we can get them, get Public Works to do that.
So along those lines, does anyone here have a plot over to Community Garden?
I am away.
You do, okay, all right. There used to be bins for recycling plant material, so now it all goes into the trash can, along with other waste that you generate. I mean, is this something we need to get the community garden people involved with,
Well-
about to go back to recycling,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff?
I think they're very good about nature. In my impression, people over there in the garden, that club that runs that. I think the reason why they stopped doing that, I think it was getting what you call contaminated with the weeds, things like that. And if you know, you don't want to have weed contamination in your mulch because the weeds gets transferred to your garden. So I think it was between that and maybe other misuse. They just got rid of it.
Oh, once again, we're an environmental committee and recycling is one of those things. Maybe that's something we make a recommendation to them. Maybe there is a decision. We just don't know what that decision was made. I mean, this was probably discussed in that group. Well, maybe they could share what their,
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll find out who leads that, because there is a leader of that place. And I'll contact them
that's the other weed garden.
and then and find out what happened and, you know, the reasons for not recycling
Plant material.
plant material, because obviously they get a lot of it. So I'll look into that.
Okay, thanks.
And by the way, so, you know, again, with as far as the trees, we hope to get, you know, we're working on, you know, state grants to get free trees for White Horse Park and for the Colonial Village location. We would do that in the fall when they reopen that effort, because the state of Maryland has a few programs highly encouraging planting of native trees. Again, for the effort of collaboration with other groups in Ocean Pines, I emailed the Garden Club president, and they're the people that will, like on the Arbor Day, they'll plant a tree someplace. They do things like that. And I guess as well as other landscaping things. If they would, you know, basically work with us to get that grant and to make arrangements to get the trees planted. Just to team up with them, and I think that will give us more support that way. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay, you have a depressed look on your face, Todd.
Oh, no, I'm just thinking of the fence line at the garden. That's where my plots are at. And there's all over there. And they're taking trees down alongside the road, or
Right.
pine trees.
Yeah.
That's good for that side, but the other side, just a mess. So anyway, that's what's on my mind.
Well, I think the problem with this, that was like a year or two ago where they cut all those trees down. I think they said they got infested with something. And
That's why I took them down.
yes.
So are you saying you want some tree removed along that fence line?
Well, for those individuals who have,
I know, I had plots.
you know, plots along the fence line, you know, it's all overgrown vines and stuff. And I've gone in and cleared out my little section of fence, but you're kind of in the shade, and you got this vegetation coming, encroaching. That's what it's encroaching, you know, the forest.
Right, if you notice, the most productive plots over there are the ones on the other side where it gets all the sun, so. Okay, all right. I think an hour and a half is a decent meeting time. Is then the next meeting. Again, I want to just mention, I have a family concern coming up, but probably resolve itself before the next meeting. So I don't anticipate any kind of change in meetings or things like that. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move we adjourn.
Okay,
I'll second.
thank you. All right, good. And that is 11:31.
Woohoo.